Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the grand finals of the Code Green NA tournament this fine Saturday. We're going to be watching Panda Bear up against Polar Bear, and they're in the picking stage already. They've banned out Hercules, Naja, Thor, and Bacchus, Sobek, Athena, and Poseidon here on the table for Panda Bear. On the opposite side of the screen, you will see Polar Bear picking up Hoonbots and Apollo. And it looks like Sobek and Athena will be on the exact same team.
Like we're going to do this again. We've seen Sobek and Athena on a team already once today, and the amount of ridiculous control and stuff they bring to the table. We are going to see that again. Very standard bans coming out here. Hoonbots being with Fenrir, Hoonbots and Fenrir again, pretty much the two decent junglers that are left available. Bacchus getting banned out because we're tired of dealing with fat people here, I guess. Looks like we're going to see Kronos picked up again. Pretty good mid laner that shows up every now and then. He's already been here once or twice today. Not as common as Poseidon or Agni, and a Poseidon Kronos matchup is definitely going to be an interesting one to watch if they stick with him, or maybe he'll solo lane.
Yeah, it's possible. So Agni's going to be locked in here as well as Kronos. Kronos most likely going to be the solo laner there, and Agni going to be in the middle lane. Agni Poseidon is a much safer matchup than Agni Kronos. Kronos Poseidon is a very fickle matchup that can come down to individual play skill, whereas Agni and Poseidon is a time-honored matchup since the release of Poseidon here. So we're going to see Fenrir and Neith being picked up here by Panda Bear, and it's going to shoot back over to Polar Bear to see what they want to pick up. They have the jungler, they have their carry, they just need a support tank, and it looks like Bacchus is off the tables with Sobek and Athena. They're just probably going to go for, there's a lot on the table. They can go for a Hades, they can go for a Guan Yu. Everything else is just out of the way. With Athena, Sobek, and Bacchus gone, they could go for an Amir, but again, Amir has some issues in the current meta with lack of mobility and early game offense, but they could still go for him. Amir is still good. It looks like they're going to put it on the table and possibly lock it in, so you may have your Amir today, so Squiddish.
I don't really know what else they're going to do. Sobek and Athena already taken Bacchus off the table. It's Ymir or Guan Yu at this point. It looks like this guy is well acquainted with Ymir as he scrolls through his 75 Ymir skins he has available. So definitely an interesting fight we're going to see going down here. It's going to be looking like Kronos in the mid lane versus either Sobek or Athena. Not sure which one would really make a better matchup for him.
It's going to be a tough one, and we've seen Amir actually a pretty effective solo. We've seen Amir... Allied really liked playing Amir in the solo lane, which worked out quite well. But of course, looking at the lineup here, there's no other reason to put Kronos and Apollo in the same lane. So it looks like they're going to have Agni in the middle lane, Kronos in the solo lane, Apollo and Amir in the long lane, and Hoonbots in the jungle there for Polar Bear. For Panda Bear across the screen, you're going to see Neith laning up with most likely an Athena. Neith and Athena there in the long lane, Sobek in the short solo lane, Fenrir in the jungle, as well as Poseidon in the middle lane. See how they decide to go with that. But again, I think Sobek's a little bit stronger of a solo than Athena is, and Athena very, very useful. But the fact they have Athena and Sobek in the game, I suspect both of them to go hard tank, and then of course Fenrir, Neith, and Poseidon to do a little bit of that damage output. Generally, you'll see Solo do a little bit of a brawler build, but I think with their lineup, they can get away with two hard tanks and then the hard damage from those two players. But we're going to cut to a brief timer here, guys, or a bit going live screen so that you can get prepared for the match to get started. We're going to make sure that we get through this delay of the spectator 3-minute delay to make sure that the screen that you're seeing on the stream is delayed enough so there's no risky or shifty business going on, and we're going to cut to that, and we'll be back in just about 2.5 minutes or so when the action is ready to start. So stick around for the first game of the best of 3 finals between Panda Bear and Polar Bear, and we can get started with that in just a few minutes, so we'll be back in 2.5 minutes or so. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out there. It's really important to make sure that you don't let those big picks go through, because it's going to be really, really hard to play in that kind of setting when they have really strong characters. Obviously, in the last match, we saw Naja just take off, and it's really good material for everyone to note of why Naja gets banned out so much in competitive play, when previously he wasn't really played that often. We saw Thor, Fenrir, and Hoonbots take control of the early jungling, and they were just so prominent. We didn't really see a whole lot of Naja, but now we see Naja banned or picked in almost every game. It's so important to keep that in mind. Looks like we do have a pause here, see if I can't get this fast forward going through as far as I can. Looks like he's going to go ahead and cut out there. But you can see the players heading out. Looks like Arcus ended up DCing. Looks like Kronos is going to start the Breastplate of Valor. I don't know if he's going mid or not. Looks like he might not be. He's going to be going in the side lane there to solo up, and probably going to have the Agni in the middle lane, but it's so important that you keep track of all the strategies, not only for your team but the enemy team, and I think that's why the MOBA genre has taken off so much is there's just so much depth to it. And obviously, it's the enjoyment factor. I mean, just competing in that manner is just so incredibly fun. But also, there's the strategies, there's the mental aspect. There's a lot of people who come from like FPS games and go into MOBAs are always surprised with how much thought process goes into every little detail of a MOBA game, and that's why I think that they're so popular.
Absolutely. There's just so much you can really do, so many options. Even from gear building to team building to just strategies of play while you're going down. Every god has got their own role. Every item's got its own use. There's so many different ways, so many different combinations, so many different synergies you can play off of, and there's so much available. And especially in a game like Smite, that's still relatively new, still in beta. I mean, you see the meta changing pretty much on a weekly basis as new gods come and go. I mean, like talking about Naja. Nothing really happened to Naja. Naja didn't really get anything that shoved him into the spotlight. He just all of a sudden everyone's like, "Hey, Naja's really good. We should probably be playing him." I mean, as people figure out better ways to work him, better ways to build him, better ways to fit him in, and he pretty much overnight goes from nobody picks him to like almost first pick, first ban material.
Yeah, I mean, he just all like you mentioned overnight just became so powerful, and it's important to keep that in mind when you're wondering about the meta changes in any kind of MOBA game or anything along those lines. That you're going to have these kind of situations where new gods come out, new items come out, new things come out that change the game completely. And obviously with the Naja changes and the fact that all the characters were nerfed and the new map came out, Naja just had a few glaring issues that were solved, and the burst damage, especially when the universe ring used to have more bounces but less damage, now has more damage but less bounces. You can get those bounces between two gods. You can do a lot of damage, kind of along the ways of like a Zeus with a chain lightning, just doing a bunch overall. I mean, it's just so important to keep that in mind. We're going to see Apollo heading over to the left lane, going to be farming this up pretty quickly. Neat's going to show up, throw out a spirit arrow into those ranged minions. We see Athena heading over to the left side lane. It's going to be Sobek and Chronos soloing the short lane on the right side of the map. And then Poseidon, the Agni in the middle lane, as predicted. And of course, Emir is going to help out the jungler played by Hoonbots over here at the blue buff, and probably going to give that to the Emir, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, Hoonbots obviously doesn't need the blue buff, and sending Ymir out with the blue buff available is going to make...
Apollo's going to get it, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I would have think of it better on Ymir than Apollo, just because Ymir, with his ability to just spam that frost breath, is such a big presence. It makes it so dangerous for the other team to try to push up and try to be aggressive, because they know Ymir doesn't have to worry about his mana, and the frost breath, such an easy to land, such a big hard stun, is always gonna be there. It's a very powerful deterrent, whereas I mean Apollo spamming so beautiful for wave clear for days is nice, but frost breath just for the deterrent, really powerful.
Something that's surprising here, we see Poseidon actually getting outlaned by Agni in the middle lane. Usually Poseidon has a bit of an advantage on the Agni, especially at level 2. Agni has to use his Path of Flames to keep up with the push of Poseidon. Actually Agni take a little bit of damage from those minions there, but Agni doesn't really match up perfectly until he's level 5. Initiation here on the Poseidon, the Sacred Monkey will not bounce the Poseidon, so will not get that free teleport, but he'll just jump over the wall and take the medium camp on the right side. Poseidon might realize it, but he's at half HP, doesn't really want to go in there. Looks like left lane, Apollo gets a kill, or actually the Neath gets a kill on that Emir. And this is one of the reasons why Emir isn't picked up so much, is he doesn't have some kind of dash or leap or high mobility besides being able to block himself with a wall, putting it at his feet. And he's a little bit weaker early on as far as HP and absorption. Obviously with Athena, Sobek, and Bacchus, they can all dash or jump away to get out of danger. I mean, the weakest part of a tank is going to be the early levels, and Emir just doesn't have that. Without the mobility, he's so easy to focus and kill. And oftentimes, people come and gank the lane and just go for the tank repeatedly so that Emir is not strong enough to fight in the mid stage of the game. That's exactly what they're doing here, and we see why Emir has fallen out of favor.
It's actually really surprising. Emir, one of the guys that ends up with some of the highest base tanky stats in the game, starts out so very low. He starts out so ridiculously vulnerable. He does nothing he can really do but stun people and pray. As you were saying, I mean, Fenrir rotated over a very easy gank. Very easy to shut him down early on and just make sure he can't get to the point where he can be a good tank. And sure, later on, he's going to be an absolute unkillable monster, but he has to get there. And it is kind of a weird thing that's been building up. Just tanks with escapes have really just been a thing that's been erupting more and more. Any semi-recent tanks that have come out are all come with a very powerful built-in escape, like obviously Athena's.
Yeah, Athena can dash away, obviously with the confound, preventing people from using abilities. Bacchus can jump away with a knock-up and a stun. I mean, Emir just has a stun and a slow, and his ultimate doesn't really land as easily. I mean, his ultimate most often against a competent and competitive team is just going to be a zoning tool. It's not really there for the damage, unless you have some kind of combination like Naja's ultimate to land it securely. But it's just there to zone. Of course, the wall is there to zone. The stun is there for initiation. We see the Frost Breath come out, and the backflip right over the wall. I mean, Neath is just completely ignoring the fact that Emir is here. Whereas, with Athena, she's more mobile. Not only that, but Athena's ultimate allows her to assist any lane she wants at any time, including the jungle. As we can see right now, her popping her ultimate on the middle lane. Poseidon's going to go in on this, see if we can't get something done here. She's going to dash in and probably going to confound up. The Tidal Surge's not going to hit, but there's the shield wall confound combination. The ultimate comes out from the Hoon bots. It looks like Poseidon's actually going to fall to the overall damage from the Ani. Here comes Fender jumping top of the Hoon bots. Hoon bots has no jump, but he doesn't have an ultimate either. Brutalizing a few more hits will do it. There's the Ragnarok picking him up and biting a chunk out of the monkey flesh. And a 1-for-1 exchange in the middle lane, exchanging the jungle Hoon bots for the mid laner Poseidon. And right there you can see why Athena is so strong, even though it didn't work out in their favor.
Absolutely. I mean, that ability to just jump over, they have a lot of global presence between the Neath and the Athena. Obviously, we just saw they can both kind of show up and assist the gank, being way across the map, even though it didn't actually work out that terribly well. Agni forced the ball out there just because he dropped so very low, unable to really help as Fenrir went in and just finished the fight there. Dropped his Noxious Fumes, but didn't have another meteor available to actually throw down the stun. Now they're going to fight for this mid camp a little bit, which is actually going to leash and get reset. Agni's trying to take it. Fenrir is here, though, so Fenrir could very easily show up and make this Agni kind of regret his life as the Whirlpool comes out and they miss the Tidal Surge, and he's just going to swag away.
Yeah, I'm surprised after using that dash, the Agni wasn't punished by the Poseidon immediately with that Tidal Surge, or with that Whirlpool. And one thing to note as well, I mean, Agni got very low in the middle lane, and we didn't see a Neath ultimate come out from the left lane to finish him off there. So a lot of missed opportunities here right off the bat from Panda Bear, but they are taking the lead with 676 gold up. They're actually behind in experience, so Polar Bear are holding on to their experience quite well, farming effectively. Obviously they have the solo laners getting lots of experience as well. Sobek just completely holding on to the right lane, pushing up that tower. Kronos ends up heading home, looks like he teleports back into the right lane, but overall we're kind of just waiting for a big gank to happen after that engagement in the middle lane. But a small gold lead for Panda Bear and a small experience. Actually, the experience difference is gone now, and back up it goes. Very, very close. This game is just very even on all fronts, and we're kind of just waiting for a big engagement for one of these teams to come on out.
Absolutely, it's just ridiculously close right now. With his solo lane, because we haven't looked at that at all, over here on the right, really looks like it has so far been going in favor of Kronos, who's able to just totally bully Sobek around, and Sobek can't really do much about it. I mean, there's nothing Sobek can really do that's going to be a threat to Kronos. Sobek doesn't have any burst at all, obviously, being a tank. And even if he did manage to just slowly whittle Kronos down, Kronos could just rewind away to freedom. Humbot's showing up with his ultimate in the mid lane there. Agni dash, and then that is just going to melt Poseidon. Just absolutely destroys it before he could do anything. I mean, Poseidon is just so very gankable in the mid lane, especially by someone like Boombots who has so much control with that ultimate.
Looks like Apollo goes up into the air. I wonder if he's going to try and dunk down on the Fenrir, and he does indeed, but forces him into tower range, unfortunately. There's a jump in response. The Brutalize gets serenaded. Very good reaction timing from the Apollo there. If it's too soon, you won't interrupt the Brutalize, and probably would have died there, but ended up getting it just in time. Looks like Fenrir will have to back off, and Apollo will head on home. A little bit of a random initiation from the Apollo, but worked out quite well. You can already see 2 deaths from Poseidon in the middle lane, a few Bosch engagements, and missed opportunities, and to put him in a bad spot. There's a stun coming out from the Agni. 1 meter to follow up right in response, but both of them miss, unfortunately enough. The Fenrir surprisingly used his tier 1 beads, which is a 4-minute cooldown for a stun that had already been used, so surprised to see that happen. Not really a big reason for him to use that there. So that will be on cooldown for the next 4 minutes, and again, we see a very, very close game in gold, but look at the experience. Already up about 1,000 experience. Polar Bear is just farming so well and keeping the experience split in an even fashion.
They really are doing a fantastic job of making sure they're not wasting a lot of their time. And I mean, a lot of it really comes down to, I think, Fenrir and Humbot's. Whereas Humbot's, every time he shows up for something, stuff happens. I mean, I guess Fenrir's the same way, actually. He's got a kill and an assist. He hasn't spent a lot of time just kind of sitting and covering lanes. But it seems like Fenrir has had to show up and cover mid for Poseidon's death already a couple times and just kind of sit there and missed out on some experience he could have potentially had jungling around. Well, Agni hasn't fallen at all, and Humbot's hasn't been forced out of doing anything but jungling and ganking people. So, I mean, that's a bit of an experience, a little bit, not a lot. Of course, obviously, the comparison between Agni and Poseidon as well. with Poseidon having died twice and Agni already picking up a 2-level advantage. That's, like you keep saying, the early game is about mid and the jungler.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to lead the charge there. So, how well they leverage those side camps. You see Apollo died on the tower there by the Athena underneath, being finished off immediately. Looks like Neith used her ultimate, but Athena had no need for that. So looks like Neith's going to head on home here. Neith's getting a very strong early lead, level 10 already. Athena jumping in on the Poseidon in the middle lane, most likely. Indeed, she is. Actually going to get hit by... No, the Hunbot's ultimate forces him away. Poseidon gets very low on HP. Arnie might want to go in on this, but he's going to go out around the Athena, and no one likes to try and dodge an aggressive and angry Athena there. So looking in on the individual numbers, we're going to see about actually dropping 3,500 player damage is the Neith. Far and away the highest in the game. Neith is just shredding in the left lane. Looking at individual numbers as well, we see 505 experience per minute, beating out the solo laner who has not left the lane. I mean, Sobek's just been sitting there getting free experience, and Neith is almost matching him in a split lane where she's sharing it, as well as 285 gold per minute. Contrast that to the carry in the exact same lane. Apollo's at 212 gold per minute. Neith is at 284, 290 now. Apollo is sitting at about 314, or actually 398 experience per minute, and Neith is at 523. So Neith is completely stomping Apollo in the exact same lane.
I mean, going 2-0 so far with she's doing a lot of work. She's doing a lot of work out here, putting down a lot of damage, picking up some kills, and making sure that nothing happens to put her out of the action. I mean, Neith's a very evasive. Both of them are really. Neith and Apollo both very evasive. Neith's just doing a little bit better at the evasion than the Apollo with that early Ymir kill and then being able to pick up Apollo. Then the Ymir freeze comes out. Humbots looks like he's rotating around, but he doesn't have his ultimate available. So, I mean, that's just going to force Neith to backflip away, and that's going to be the end of that story. Fenrir here as well, but so is Agni, and here comes Poseidon. Also, everybody rotating towards left lane right now. Fenrir forced to jump away. Another missed meteor. Agni's just having a lot of trouble landing his meteor hits this game as he keeps whiffing them while people jump away and get just out of range.
There's a root coming out from underneath, just poking down the Ymir. Look at the damage she does from afar. He's going to throw out Frost Breath and mids it because she's just going to backflip away. Neith is just making play toys out of this left lane. We see Poseidon and Fenrir being picked off here. We're going to back that up and see exactly what happened in front of the camps. As you like to mention earlier, about 2 games ago, Squish, is the fact that these side camps are great, but if they cost you your life, they're not worth it. Hubas jumps out. There's the ultimate, forcing him forward. Great positioning there. There's the stun from Agni as well as Poseidon ultimate. Going to do a little bit of damage there, but of course Fenrir and Poseidon were already dead at that point. And again, you gotta be very careful about those side camps. They're great. They give you lots of good advantages little by little, but it's never worth your life.
Absolutely not, and definitely not worth 2 lives. A very, very bad trade for Team Panda as Agni and Hunbots. I mean, that was a beautiful ultimate from Hunbots, fearing them right into Agni's lap, allowing him to land a very, very easy double stun. I mean, that Humbot's ultimate, in addition to putting them out of place, gives them incredibly predictable movement. So it was very easy for Agni to set up exactly where they were going to be and lay down the perfect double stun. And now you can see, I mean, mid-tower's paying for it. Poseidon forced to teleport back in, but not before minions take down about a quarter of his tower's health.
Yeah, taking a lot of harassment there on that tower. A little bit of damage output, and of course, getting early towers not only gives your team lots of golden experience, but also gives you the positioning rights. If that tower is gone, the mid laner on the enemy team will be forced to defend it more often and be in a bad position where you're free to just do whatever you want, roam around the map. We see Fenrir jumping on top of the Hunbots, being forced back by that securely placed noxious fumes by Agni, making them disengage there. Ymir kind of come over the middle lane. The question is, what can he really do? You can see Ymir starting to pick up lots of HP now. I mean, Ymir's base stats are not great, but his stat gains are probably the best in the entire game. I mean, Ymir, just pound for pound at level 20, is one of the tankiest characters in the entire game, but his base stats are weak. So he starts out weak, but gets lots and lots of HP and protections every level that he levels up. But he doesn't really, contribute a lot to this very high-paced, fast action MOBA or meta that we're in right now. Just farming the middle lane, getting lots of ganks, rotations, lots of buff stealing, warding, objectives. It's just hard for Ymir to keep up because he's just not one of the most mobile tanks.
Absolutely. Apollo we saw pushing away at that left tower. Neith and Athena shows up. He manages to dodge the Spirit Arrow and then pops his ultimate to get out anyway. Just not taking any risks, not wanting to give Team Panda anything they could use to sort of pull themselves back up. Now there's really a lot of pulling to be done because, I mean, they're just... Team Polar Bear is just barely pulling an advantage with less than 500 gold ahead. So, I mean, they're still ridiculously close. This is pretty much still a dead even game. Ymir gets caught out a little bit, but his wall does allow him to escape. It looks like Humbots might be hunting for yet another gank on Poseidon in the mid lane.
Yeah, trying to jump. There's a stun from the Agni. Athena ultimate response is going to reduce the damage he takes, but not going to be enough as you see him grasping for air. Neath ultimate on the Agni for some strange reason. Fenrir was there to follow up a little bit close, but never able to do it. Jumps in on it. The stun does land. The Brutalizer comes soon. He can dash away from this, and indeed he does. There's the Ragnarok under tower range. It's a very risky maneuver by Fenrir. He's most likely not going to be able to get this. The damage from the tower is going to be enough, and Agni, as he skirts forward, will survive. The each aim at keep him alive just long enough. Fenrir getting very, very greedy there. So a 2-for-0 exchange in the middle lane for Polar Bear. And it looks like we're going to have a 6 versus 3. Polar Bear takes a large experience lead, but a very modest gold lead.
Absolutely no reason Fenrir had to die there. I mean, the Neath ultimate win, I can understand he wanted to capitalize. He didn't want her ultimate to go to waste. I know that feeling. Neath ultimate means go, as Matty Pocket says. But it just, there wasn't anything there. I mean, he tried to go into tower, and Agni just kind of walked around casually, walked around the tower. Just Fenrir eating tower shots for days. He already blew his runes on the stun, so he did not have runes available for the protection bonus of his ultimate. So he was just getting torn down, managed to pick Agni up, but then that was it. Just couldn't even land that final hit to finish him off. Just not worth going in on. I mean, it's as important to know when it's go time and when it's time to jump in and murder. It's just as important to know when it's not go time and when you should just let Neath's ultimate go, and well, we tried.
Yeah, a bit of a miscommunication there. I think if the Neath ultimate came in at the exact same time as he mentioned, it would have been a lot easier for Fenrir to get a kill. Obviously, Agni ended up surviving with like 3% HP, so it would have been a much better engagement. In fact, the Neath ultimate would have just been able to finish him off, but in that case, it didn't really work out too well. One thing to note, on top of everything, going back to the numbers, we're going to see Neath dropping a surprising 7,500 player damage. You see a gank coming in from the left lane. 3 players are here. Looks like the blink in from the mirror is going to get a stun off on both of them. It's going to be enough, however, a good wall. There's a Hoonbot's ultimate into the wall. Will keep the fear open for the entire duration. Now Fenrir's going to pick up the Hoonbots, bring them close to the beats, gets popped. The mirror ultimate's going to do nothing there besides make them wait a little bit. Brutalize on top of the Hoonbots is going to make him jump into the tower. Spear arrow on top of the Amir. Amir's kind of caught here. He could wall, but he's slowed and won't be able to get the wall off. There's the wall animation. But looks like he will end up falling. A good stun from the Audi as well as the damage over time effect will finish off the Neath. The Whirlpool comes out. The Kraken to be coming out soon. There's a Kraken roll that's actually going to hit the Audi on the very edge of the inner circle. Fenrir gets a double stun off. There's the Brutalize. There's the Confound and the Taunt. A triple Serenade. Is it going to be enough? Overhand smash. Sacred Monkey blinks to the Fenrir, finishing him off, and one hit will kill for the double kill on Poseidon. Athena barely escapes. A huge back and forth from these teams here. But it looks like when it's all said and done, a 2-for-3 exchange in favor of Polar Bear. They lost Agni and Amir, but who cares? You got Neath, Fenrir, and Poseidon, all the damage dealers for Panda Bear, and you gotta be happy about that trade.
Big plays, big plays. Definitely sure Polar Bear is very glad about that. And on the tail end of this, they may be able to push in and do a lot of damage to this left tower as well if they can kill that one freaking archer that's standing there big in the way. Apollo going down, laying down some shots, waiting for his next mini wave. Gonna push into as much hurt as he can. Here comes a teleport. That's gonna be Neath showing up to save the day. Here she is. And Athena is just about here as well. Humbot's gonna take the opportunity to bogart the most important of buffs from the enemy jungle, stealing the speed, which is going to cause Fenrir's jungle times to increase dramatically as he's forced to very slowly meander between camps. That speed buff just so critical for a jungler to keep his farm up. If you're going to steal a buff, that's the one to steal early game.
Yeah, very good one. I mean, the junglers rely on it. Fenrir can go for damage buff, but that takes it away from the mid. Usually, the jungler will go for either damage or movement speed and get the other one to the middle lane. Initiation here on the Poseidon, who's going to get completely dropped down. Here comes the Chronos with the miss, the double miss, but the Flame Wave with Agni will secure the kill. Brutalize comes out as well. The Neath ultimate is going to be in time. It's just in time. That was so very close as Fenrir's forced to disengage. I'm actually going to bring that back to see exactly how close that was. We're going to see Amir rotate it over course. Let's drop this to 2 times speed as Poseidon gets caught out here inside of the jungle camp. Great flank from the Hoonbots, forcing him forward again. Poseidon ultimate comes out. See him get picked up by the Fenrir. Look how close this ultimate came from Neath. He pops the Aegis Amulet, the Neath ultimate's coming in, and look how the timing is. Fenrir's trying to go after it. The Aegis Amulet is still active. You can see it's still active when the arrow comes on screen. Still active, still active. It drops off, and then the second the Aegis Amulet drops off, it hits Hoonbots for the kill. Fenrir jumps away with the Athena ultimate on top of him. The meteors come out from the audience. They're going to disengage there. So a 1-for-1 exchange overall. A little bit of a luck there on Neath's part, but again, that's why Neath is so great. She can contribute to team fights she's not even a part of.
And that's really the other thing. I mean, with that the little baby Aegis that Hoonbots has, with Neat's ultimate, the travel time is really iffy. Unless, I mean, he's got something to focus on right now. He has his own battle he's paying attention to. He doesn't have time to focus on exactly where Neat fired that arrow from, and he doesn't have time to figure out exactly how long it's going to take. He just has to kind of guesstimate based on the direction. Oh, it's coming from left lane. It's going to be about this long. I got a 1 second Aegis. Ah, too early. It can be really hard to guesstimate with that short Aegis exactly when her arrow's going to show up. As Ymir tried to rotate around on right lane, ends up getting caught out as Sobek fled back to tower and then rotated on in return.
Ani might get taunted here by the Athena. No one here besides Poseidon to capitalize. Does Poseidon have his ultimate? He does not have his ultimate available to him, unfortunately enough. But again, you see Ymir getting caught out without any kind of leap or dash. He can't disengage. And with this mobile meta, it's too hard for him to keep up. You can see as soon as he's caught out, he's caught out. He can go for a clutch wall if it's in time, but if there's any slow on him, he can't use that trick to save himself. And Ymir just dies over and over and over, getting caught out repeatedly. Checking on the stats, yet again, you can see 10.7 thousand player damage dropped by the Neath. The highest on the enemy team is going to be 8,400 from Hoonbots, who has been part of literally every gank. You can see 10 kills going down for Polar Bear, and 9, he's been a part of 9 of them. So Hoonbots being part of everything is still not keeping up with Neath's overall damage output. It's incredible to see him doing so well. But again, how much does it count for? As you can see, that a huge experience lead and a modest gold lead for Polar Bear. So even though Polar Bear is getting lots of ganks off and good rotations, Panda Bear is definitely still in this.
Absolutely, and I mean, this Hoonbots and Agni are just working together so very well. As you brought up, Hoonbots has been a part of 9 of the team's 10 kills, while Agni's been a part of 10 of the 10 team's kills. This has all been Agni and Hoonbots ganks. I mean, that's pretty much it. Agni Hoonbots ganks, Agni Hoonbots rotations. It has all been on their shoulders, and it shows with Agni at 9,200 gold at level 19. He's just so fat and so far ahead because he has been a part of literally everything. It is him and the monkey carrying this fat little polar bear on their shoulders to freedom right now.
The ult that comes out from Neath on the Apollo, that there wasn't enough damage there to get the Apollo down. He ended up flying away with his ultimate across the sky. Here comes the auto game, picked up by the Fenrir. Ragnarok does bring him into tower. Poseidon ult each him prevents that. He doesn't have a dash available. There's a Hoonbots ultimate in response, throwing some meteors down, taking a lot of tower damage. The Whirlpool keeps him in range. Hoonbots wants to go after the Athena here after getting a double kill there under tower. Agni just did not have his dash available, could not get out of range, so he decides, you know what, I'm Agni, I'm going to make the fire come down upon you if you got me in a bad situation. Did exactly that, did a lot of damage output, and overall, a 2-for-1 exchange is something that Polar Bear is happy about, keeping their lead alive, about 1,700 gold now for them overall, and there's been no objective attempts up until this point. All the towers are standing except for the middle tower, who I really don't know how this tower is still alive.
It's just there. It exists. Someone could come over and sneeze on it and fall over, but Agni right there, after getting the Fenrir and Poseidon ult both blown on him as he's dragged into tower range, managing to pick up a double kill before dying. That is just how fat Agni is right now. That is how farmed he is. Gets dragged into tower and eats every ult known to man. Hoonbot's just gonna go in and slap this card once. There he goes, yeah. Hits it with his, 6,000 Jin staff. The weight of a small planet. I'm sure it can bring down a little stone tower. Apollo and Neath also fighting over here in the left lane. Neath desperately trying to defend her tower as it's fairly close to dropping off as well.
Most assuredly. So we're going to see them kind of push up to this left side, clear out this blue buff. Most likely give it to the Neath and just have Neath farm. Neath, level 18 right now. Checking back in on the stats, you can see Neath getting about 578 experience per minute. Sobek at 605, so she's right up against Sobek in the gain there. Sobek actually has 3,700 gold in hand. Sobek just never goes home. He just sits in that side lane and farms. Apollo's going to get a free tower and go up into the sky, as Apollo often does. A very, very good pickup there for Apollo. Gets out just in time. In fact, he blew it up as they rotated around to try and pick him up. Sobek now goes home, and let's watch his gold disappear. He goes from 3,700 to 1,400, and possibly down even more so as he decides on his next item. Looking at the item stats here, he's going to buy a full Breastplate of Valor and a full Void Stone, and then probably get some consumables and head back to the lane.
Sobek be rolling in it. Scrooge McCrocodile right now.
And a tier 2 bulwark.
Loads of money. Going back, buying everything he wants. 2 full items and a tier 2 bulwark. As Team Panda tries to muster up a defense at this tower in Sobek's absence. Sobek goes home for 2 freaking seconds and literally everybody shows up in his lane. Sobek's been here all day and nothing happens. He goes home for a second and misses the whole party, as now everyone's pulling back and going back to their respective lanes. But, I mean, for right now, all 5 members of Team Panda congregated on the right side to try and protect that tower.
Yes, we're going to see Sobek return to this right side lane, going to push it up. All you have to do is just get this tower down, and then all of a sudden he's able to join all those team fights and contribute to his team in big ways, especially since the fact he has 3 tank items almost completed after the Greaves, which he ended up going for the reinforced Greaves, which reduces the crowd control, so that's going to prevent him from being CC'd for very long. Not only that, but he's just very tanky, and Sobek, at this point, can kind of have the Hercules effect, where he just does whatever he wants, wherever he wants, and with how tanky he is and how farmed he is right now, there's not a whole lot the enemy team can do about it.
No, he's pretty large, and no one's really going to be able to slap him around. He's level 19 right now. He is the second most farmed on his team. Homebot's ultimate comes out on the Fender, who uses the beads to jump away. Poseidon Whirlpool's defensively trying to take him as Ymir actually gets sucked into tower range. Taking that charge spray for Agni. Stun comes out from Ymir, and then he just kind of taps foreheads, but Sobek doesn't even auto-attack or anything, just walks into him. Sup. Backs up. The typical tank exchange. Funbot's looking for greener pastures here, trying to see if he can get a gank on Neath instead. She backflips away, though, as Neath is like to do, and is just kind of free to go as they look to sponge up this medium camp here. Ymir's zoning out Sobek, making sure Agni's able to get this uncontested.
Looks like Sobek's going to come back to his lane, make sure his home is protected properly by the Neath. I mean, Neath is going to be a big driving force for her team. In fact, she's the most farmed on her team overall. You contrast that to the enemy team. We have Agni and Hoonbot just taking away the amount of gold. I mean, they're already at a 5,700 gold lead as well as an 8,700 experience lead. Of course, that is attributed to the 3 towers they've destroyed versus the 0 that Panda Bear has. But even that being said, Neath still driving a lot of gold and farm for her team. And if they can get the tower advantage out of the way, Panda Bear can definitely be right on line with Polar Bear.
Absolutely can. I mean, it's definitely not an insurmountable lead at this point. It's nothing that I'd even call major. I mean, they're starting to build up a decent advantage, but it's far from a snowball. Here we have Apollo has shown up in the right lane, actually trying to just do his pushing thing. Sobek doing his best to keep him out, but I mean, Apollo doesn't really care a whole lot. He's going to wait for his minions to go to tower and then go in and do as much damage as he possibly can. Apollo, the champion of structure damage, dropping his Serenade on Sobek. Sobek's just throwing him around, and he's just totally ignoring the Lizard. Just completely ignoring him as he manages to take down the tower and then ult away right as Athena lands in, while his team picks up a Gold Fury.
We're going to see Hoonbot trying to get on this Neath. Neath doing a lot of damage here. He actually misses the jump as she goes the opposite direction he was expecting. Apollo's going to dunk down on this Harpy camp in the backside and get some free experience and gold from that. In the middle lane we see Kronos as well as Hoonbot's kind of farming this up as much as he can. Hoonbot's looking for a flank. Does Hoonbot's have his ultimate? He does indeed, so could jump in here and get a good spread here with Kronos doing a little bit of burst damage. Let's see coming from the backside. Do they have any rotations to speak of? Hoonbot's is still standing behind the enemy team, and there's no one here to help him out. There's Hoonbot's ultimate forcing the Poseidon forward. Kronos goes for the stun. Each time it gets popped, Spirit Arrow comes out and hits Agni in the face. Poseidon ultimate comes out as well. Sobek's going to pick up the Hoonbots, and Hoonbots wants blood. He wants to jump over, but the cripple comes out, but he's going to go ahead and beats it. Overhand smash is not going to be enough, and Hoonbots gets way too greedy, gets picked off by the tower damage. Looks like Sobek's going to come from the Ymir ultimate, gets popped down as well, going to zone them out. Sobek's going to eat this and not even care. Damage on Ymir is going to be too much as he gets thrown into tower and completely violated as Agni and Kronos have to disengage. A double kill for Panda Bear right off the bat, and that greed from Hoonbots will prove to be the downfall for this team fight and engagement for Polar Bear.
Hoonbot's wanted it so bad, but started off with a great ultimate separating out Poseidon and keeping him alone. Poseidon managed to get away with the beads and Aegis. They just couldn't finish him off. He threw the Panic Kraken behind him that hit literally nothing, but I guess did its job of making sure nobody followed him, just on the off chance someone was trying to, I don't know, murder the guy that was at like 20% health. And then just diving the tower alone so hard. I don't know if he was expecting, I mean, Ymir was a ways behind him. I don't know if that was a bit of a miscommunication. He was expecting Ymir to go in with him or what exactly the game plan was, but he kind of ended up with his butt waving in the wind there, all alone, just getting murdered under tower and giving up a totally free kill. Ymir tried to come in to follow up afterward and just died as well. Definitely a good exchange for Panda.
Most assuredly, let's go ahead and check in on the stats to see exactly how that works out. We see 7,700 gold for Polar Bear, and an 8,600 experience lead for Polar Bear as well. Looking in the actual numbers here, we're going to see Neath dropping 16,000 player damage. Look at the enemy team. We see Agni right up against her there with 15.2 thousand for himself. But I mean, just look at the player damage for Neath compared to the rest of her team. I mean, everyone is under, it's sitting about 4 digits where she's at 5. I mean, she's just doing so much, as well as 1,000 objective damage, just doing so much for her team. But look at Apollo with 3,300 objective damage, just pushing those towers and keeping that gold lead. In fact, that's a big reason why Polar Bear is so far ahead when it's 12 to 10 here, and the farm is relatively even. Is the fact that he's just killing so many towers.
He really is, and we see Apollo getting caught out trying to bogart the red buff here. Pops' ultimate manages to come down on Neath right nearby in the mid lane, picking up that kill as Sobek and Poseidon slowly rotate over, realizing that they really wish they had a giant sudden pulling chariot they could use to rotate around on ganks like that, and maybe Neath would have survived, but she just got cut out really bad in the mid lane there. Nothing she really could have done to get away from that. Apollo did actually manage to steal the damage buff, but as you can see, it just lays her sat alone on the ground. He couldn't pick it up. He had to leave. He had to get out of town. Bad things were happening. Stole the kill, couldn't actually steal the buff.
Unfortunately enough. And one thing, as you mentioned, Squid, is Neath was just too far forward. And the fact that, you know, Neath is the driving force here. She's the most farmed, she has the most damage output, she has the most to bring to the team. And if she keeps getting picked off like that, it's going to be so easy for Polar Bear to pick up the pieces of that team fight if Neath goes down. Neath's actually going to go for a Chin's Blades here, which I completely disagree with. In fact, the only item that's been picked up on Polar Bear that provides HP of any kind is the Sovereignty on the Mirror, which they've proven they don't have any trouble killing off the Emir. Now, Chin's Blades, what it does, it provides a passive that allows you to shred the maximum percentage HP of a target, which I believe they have to have an incredible amount of HP for the price and damage loss versus other items to be worth it. I think it's over like 3,600 HP or 3,800 HP or something along those lines where the Chin's Blades actually becomes worth it. So that picking up this item may prove to be a bit of a downfall for Neath when she just lost half her stacks on her Heartseeker, has a Deathbringer. I think it would be better for her, it might behoove her to pick up something like a Rage or something like an Executioner to get some penetration, or even a Titan's Bane over the Chin's Blades. We've seen Initiation here in front of the Fire Giant. Hoopat's ultimate comes out, forcing them all away. Poseidon doing a lot of damage. The Whirlpool's on the ground. Agni is caught, avoids the Tidal Surge with his Each damage, but not giving enough as the damage up comes to up with the Trident. Emir ultimate's going to come down and zone them out there. Fenrir's going to pick up with a Ragnarok, kind of run around there. Athena ultimate's on top of Fenrir. Is not going to take as much damage from there. There's the Brutalizer going to jump away, but there goes the Fenrir in hot pursuit. One more hit will do it. Hoonbots falls, but so does Fenrir. Now it's Athena by herself, getting surrounded by 3 players as Poseidon comes to the backside. They might turn on Poseidon. There is the moves to get closer and closer. Are they going to get there in time? The Poseidon is taking so much damage from Apollo. The freeze misses from the Emir, but the Chrono Stun does not, and there goes Poseidon. Overall is going to be a 2-for-4 exchange. Panda Bear is getting wiped here.
They're not having a good day. Now, Polar Bear is going to be able to pretty easily come in and pick up this Fire Giant, of course, which they are going to do immediately. Athena hanging out in the area. She has a rank 2 Hand of Gods, but Ymir has a rank 3. So, I mean, she probably can't contest this unless she can find some sort of way to keep Ymir out of the action, and there it is. In fact, Polar Bear has picked up a completely free, no strings attached Fire Giant. The only real downside is their 2 most farmed members, Agni and Hoonbots, are not going to be able to take the buff.
Well, one of the biggest things, too, is, you know, it's a downer. It's something that you really don't want to have happen, especially since, as you mentioned, that they're most farmed, they're going to be doing the most damage. They're not going to have that big bonus damage, but it means that Fire Giant's not on the table anymore. It's not on the map. There's nothing that Panda can do to get back in this game. That's one of the biggest ways to get back into a game is if you steal away a Fire Giant or get it for free on the losing team. And it's so easy to get back into the game with bonus damage. It contributes almost an entire item extra just from that buff. Not only that, but you have the regeneration. So, I mean, Apollo, Kronos, and Emir will have extra regeneration and extra damage, and it'll bolster up the weakest players on Polar Bear, Apollo and Kronos especially, allowing them to do more damage with that buff. Brings them up to the level of Agni and Hoonbots until that buff wears off, which means that overall they're going to be stronger, and of course it prevents Panda Bear from having the opportunity to pick it up themselves. So either way, since they are ahead, they're sitting in the belt, 7,700 gold up, they have 12,000 experience up. It's going to be a win no matter what. Panda Bear is definitely in a tough spot here. They're on tilt, and they need to make sure that they come out and get a good team fight win. They need to position themselves well, and Neath especially needs to be very careful. And Fenrir needs to slow down his aggression a bit. He seems to be forcing engagements that Panda Bear really can't deal with.
Absolutely. I'm just laughing. I was watching Agni over here, just sitting there spamming auto attacks, and Athena just with the world's worst timing, trying to put down her counter word right as each one came out, and getting 3 counter words in a row, just picked off by Agni there as he just stood there and auto attack. So I mean that's 225 gold on the support tank, just totally down the drain. Agni just managed to piss away. And that's great. She doesn't have a lot of gold to spare. I mean, she's at the bottom of the board right now. Obviously, being a support tank doesn't get quite as much farm. You can make her waste 3 wards. It's a pretty big deal. Ultimate comes out from Homebot, so him trying to ult over to reduce the amount of damage. Aegis from Poseidon just trying to survive. There's the Kraken, and the Athena slams down. He is going to go down, but not before Athena manages to show up. Ultimate from Ymir trying to zone everybody out here, and they are going to back out. The Neath ult's going to come in on Kronos, who's simply going to rewind. Not care a whole lot. Ragnarok just trying to run for freedom here. Fenrir is bailing like a man, and there he goes. Athena does get taken down. The Sobek is in a lot of trouble right now, unable to save his Neath as she gets torn down by the crazy amount of damage that is getting put out by Team Polar Bear. There is the Bulwark of Hope triggering, but it looks like Sobek is going to get out okay. Ymir trying to zone him out as they all pile in. There's the Agni stun. Actually, he stuck around a little bit too long. Agni doing a little bit more damage than he thought he would. That Spear of the Magus getting a lot of protection there. Or penetration, not protection. No protection whatsoever, actually. The opposite of that. As Sobek is torn down and Fenrir is left alone trying to defend against the entirety of Team Polar Bear.
Panda Bear's Guardian is under attack, as you can see on screen here, getting pressured. All 4 players except for Fenrir are down. Fenrir is kind of running around trying to help out his big boy Minotaur, but there's not a whole lot he can do here. He can jump in, probably go for the Ymir. Humbot's ultimate in response says, no, not today, doggy. He's going to have to go back to his base. Actually, uses beads to prevent that. The Minotaur's still taking damage, getting lower and lower, and a single nuke from Kronos will get the last hit right as he gets picked up by the Fenrir, and game 1 will go to Polar Bear. As we head into the stat screen to see exactly what happened, you see Polar Bear just taking an early lead and holding on to it. Unfortunately enough, we saw Neath get a very good lead in gold and experience, but unfortunately ended up picking up the Chin's blades, which reduced her damage overall, and of course got picked off a bit. Poseidon had a tough time in the middle lane. It's never fun to be the middle laner on a losing team when the enemy team is fed, especially Agni Hoonbot's a very aggressive combination of mid and jungler. As you can see overall, I mean 3-0-6 on Kronos, 2-1-7 on Apollo, and 0-4-9 on Ymir. It stands to reason that the Hoonbots and Agni are the ones that carry the early game. That's how it always is. It's going to be the jungler in the mid that set the pace of the rest of the match by holding on to the early game and making it happen for them. So overall, we can see a 21-12 and 42 for Polar Bear, conquering the early game with about, it looks like Hoonbots dropped himself about 20,000 damage, but Agni doing 24,000. I mean, so much damage done. It just came down to that early game rotation, which set the pace for the rest of the match, and just Panda Bear couldn't come back.
It was that early Agni Hoonbots, Agni being a part of literally every single kill for so long. Hoonbots only missed out on one of them, both of them ending the game with 18 total kill participations out of 21. So, I mean, that Poseidon really, it's not that he did anything wrong. He just got turned into the party punching bag. As Hoonbots and Agni's ganks were just so strong. That's so much control they have. The Hoonbots ultimately able to push Poseidon away from safety, and Agni able to stun him out there with the Meteor Noxious Fumes combo. It's so good. It's such a good combo. They just farmed it. They took his advantage as hard as they could. They realized Poseidon didn't really have any escapes, doesn't have any way out. They pushed that advantage, and they just picked up such a huge early farm advantage.
Well, what they're going to be looking forward to in the next match, obviously, is a best-of-3 series, so Panda Bear and Polar will be facing off against each other again. It's just trying to bolster that mid-jungle combination. It seems like one of their biggest weaknesses was that middle role, so that if they had Blazing Focus stay in that role, they're probably going to make sure that is more rotations from their team, more assists from the side lanes, or more involvement from the jungler to make sure that mid does just not fall too far behind. Because as you can see, the Agni sitting at about 426 gold per minute, the Hoonbots at 410. It all came down to that mid-roll just not being as strong as they would expect it to be and giving away too much gold to both Agni and Hoonbots and that game get out of control. So when they go to game 2, not only are they going to think about it during the game, but also in the picking stage on how they can make their middle central area of the map more more durable, more robust, so that they don't have this happen again, and they'll have to adjust their strategy. But that was game one of the grand finals. Is Code Green NA, casted by myself, Drybear, and Squidish. We're gonna be heading into game two in just a moment as we check in with the players to see where they're at right now and when they're ready to go. So when the match is up, we're gonna be getting that started immediately. So definitely stick around as we'll be bringing that up as soon as it is up, and we'll get the picking stages because the picking stage is gonna be very, very important.
Well, when you first walk in, you'll notice that we have the beanbag chairs, which you find in every game company. We have the playtest room, which there's 50 computers all set up, but there's also a bunch of cubicles, and people have all their monitors, and people are always working. People go in at 9 and leave at 8 or 9 p.m.